Right, so the next thing to add to the ship is the decking edging, which goes between the frame and where the decking would go, which are these pieces. Very delicate, very well cut with a CNC. Required very little clean-up and came out of part 23 quite easily. Now, assuming that you've shaped all this correctly, they should fit. I was quite stunned. I've either done an awesome job, which I doubt, or the kit has been done in such a way that it made it easy to make sure that all this is correct. I was quite surprised. But, I'll bring it in a little closer. You'll see what I mean. This piece, this lip, is supposed to go against the upper portion of the keel. I was surprised that it fits perfectly in there, and whether you can see it, fits perfectly up against the keel here. It was the same with the other side. I was quite surprised. That goes in there. That portion there. This next portion here. And the last portion. Up to the rear keel, oh, sorry, the rear portion stern of the ship. Goes in here with a little bit of overlap, but as I said, it all fits perfectly along the edge all the way around. I was quite stunned, required no modification, no adjustment whatsoever. And the other one's been done on the other side. I'll glue that in, and then we'll get to the next section, which is marking this guy and adding a couple of pieces, getting ready to take it out of its berth at long last. Cheers. Right. So here we are at the sticky end. We've completed the interior physical framing and all the cabins, and we're now getting ready to mark up the hull to be cut out of the berth. Now try and give you a set of templates that you put along the edge of the ship. These pieces here get glued on in certain positions along here according to the manual, and this piece sits on the risers here and gives you the exact shape to cut out. We'll now put that on and see how we feel about it. Cheers. Alright, so the first pieces we add are these here. They're marked corresponding to the numbers of the ribs, so rib 9, rib 27, rib 46 and rib 72, and they get glued on to the actual ribs, as I'll show you. So for example, that's rib 47. That template's now been glued on the top of the rib to mark the cutting area. There's another template that goes up against it. Very simple. You just put them in the appropriate places, and that's how you do that. Alright, so I've taken out the frame here taken out these pieces as I showed you. They've now been glued into position. This guy's been put in, and the rear section that marks the stern of the ship has also been cut out. I'll show you where that goes. Now this is this guy in place. Fairly simple, just a matter of lining it up and positioning it. There are 3 upper portions, which hard to see. I'll zoom in. Correspond with 3 slots in the top of this frame. You get pushed up and through it, and then the locking pins that used to lock this edge on, you push on there to lock it in place. Now, the only thing you do have to do is remove the top portion of this, because you can't get that in behind it, and consequently can't put it up through the slot. But once that goes in, that's now a flush against the edge of the frame, and I can spot one of these guys. It's a bit out of focus, unfortunately. Hard up against one of these pieces that we took out and glued in earlier, so we know these are all now in exactly the correct position. And if I can zoom in a bit more, I will show you before it goes out of focus. There are lines on the top and the bottom which point in between, and there's also ones that point above. That's your cutting lines, and where do they be marked on each of the frames. And so make sure you double check that you put your cutting lines where they're supposed to be. As you can see, they move up and down quite a bit across the actual model, so this does have to be exactly where it's supposed to be. I'll mark those lines up and take that out afterwards. Very simple to put in, bends really easy and does fit in easily in those slots up there. Just take your time, but yes, you will have to cut and remove the roof section of that. There's also another one of these, I'll show you in a second. Take it down on the floor because it's easier to see. Once you've taken that back section off, this guy here sits on the back. It lines up, you can't see it, but it lines up with the edge of that side frame that we put in exactly. So that's the other cutting lines you've got to put across there as a curve. And of course the one across the centre here where the slot fits in, and this just fits there loosely. You don't glue it in place, you just use it to mark the lines. Once you've done that, all that can be removed, and you can start doing the sphincter trembling version of cutting the actual frames. Cheers. Alright, so I've added these guys on here. You'll notice I've taken these guys off the top on the locks. Yeah. After cutting the tops off these, which aren't needed anymore, which was needed to get these in place, we can now do something scary, which is, this all goes together properly. We can now take that guy out, ready for some sanding. Very spooky moment. This guy's still in one piece. I'll put it back in afterwards prior to cutting the ribs, but as I said, these guys are all locked in, so I can now fair the rest of this, make it all look nice and smooth prior to continuing. Big shock, big surprise. but yeah, it comes apart really easy, and it's solid, which means I can start doing my work on it, which is awesome. Anyway, once I've sanded that up, we'll come back to the next section. Yay! And several days, hours later, as you can tell, it's going to take a while to sand it up. It's all coming up nice and smooth around the corners here, bearing up nicely. Bit of effort required. Once that's cleaned up, we'll put it back in the cradle and we'll start the marking and cutting process, which will be another video entirely. So got to work out how to put some of the pieces on the back here, but nice solid little beast, and yeah, you can rub pretty hard on here and she comes up nicely. We'll see you several sore arms and sore times later. Cheers and goodbye from this one for now.